Hello, YouTube coin collectors and stackers. Today we are going to look at some lots that I won in an auction recently at Stacks Bowers. And I won several things. We're just going to look at two of them because they're just kind of cool. And it was fun to go through each of these albums to see what was in it. So we're going to start with this Liberty Head Halves. This is an older album, you can see. And we would call these Barber Halves today, and some Lincoln cents. Before I dive into it though, please don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Really helps the channel. So let's dive in. So before we really get going, let's look at what a Liberty Head half dollar would look like in a nice higher grade. This is an AU58 in this old soap holder. I think some people call these fatties. This is an older holder. I actually had a chance of buying this in a higher grade, like a 62, 63. But honestly, I like the look of this 58 better. And I often do when it comes to this stuff. I often think the 58s have better eye appeal than some of the lower grade uncirculated coins. But this is a 1907 Philly in a nice high grade, AU58. So almost uncirculated. It's got some nice mint luster on it. A couple of scratches. You can see some circulation on the cheek and stuff. But otherwise a very nice coin. So keep this in mind as we dive into the others, because in this album, it's not quite so nice as this, as you would imagine. So this is a older Whitman album. I would imagine this is probably from the 60s. I think copyright 1960 right there. It's got your mintages, and you can see on some of these, the mintages are quite low. Like the 1892's under $1 million, the 1892 that's the lowest of all the branch mintages for the series, and it may be the lowest of all. Yeah, just at a quick glance, it appears to be that it was the lowest mintage of all at 390,000. So we're going to look at that. And let's kind of get into what these look like. The album, as you can see, is kind of in rough shape, but you don't buy these for the album. The album's kind of a bonus. So again, let's look at what these should look like, right? And what, these circulated examples look like here. Notably, the leaves on the head being completely worn off. A lot of the detail on the mouth and the eye completely worn off. The detail on the ribbon and the stars, right? And so on. And that's usual for these. And these coins got a lot of action. That's why you generally see them so worn, and why they're worth so much in the higher grades. So starting with this 1892, when this design came out, it was quite popular. It's designed by Charles Barber. These were called Morgan halves for a while, and they were correctly attributed to Barber. But this is Charles Barber who designed these. And you can see on this one, there's some scratches behind the head there. And there's some graffiti on several of these, which is, kind of a bummer. But the 1892, while there was less than 1 million of these minted, these were saved in large quantities because they were new and novel, and people saved them, as they often did in the first year of an issue. Moving on to the 1892 this one's 390,000 and the lowest mintage of all. And you can see it's in relatively good shape, except if you look real close, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can really see it, you'll see some dunderhead went and scratched the profile out all the way around, which is a real bummer on this coin, because having done that probably knocks at least $100 or more off of this coin. But if you get a little further away, the way they did it, it's not hugely distracting. So for somebody's barber book or typeset, this is actually a fairly decent coin, because that graffiti is not so noticeable just to the naked eye, unless you really kind of look at it a lot more closely. Going to the 18, and again, while this was the lowest mintage, it definitely was saved as well. So it's not like it's an unavailable coin. There is a micro O version of this. I believe there's only 50 known of those, and it's believed that they used the O puncheon for the quarter on this by accident, but only 50 known. Very valuable coin if you find one of those. This is not one of those, obviously. The 1892 S, this is very valuable even in low grade. So like this first one here, it's probably about 50 bucks. Probably like a 4 or 6. It's good. We'll just say it's good. It's got some scratches on it. This one would be closer to a 6, knocking on an 8, but the graffiti kind of ruins it, right? This guy's like about good in that range, probably a 2. But, this coin here, even in this state, is probably worth around $200. This O and this S in this state, believe it or not, is almost worth as much as the O with graffiti on it, somewhere between $170 and $200. And you can see how these wear down as we start to get down below good. In the 1893, this is pretty common, nothing major here. It is a condition rarity, so finding this up in, uncirculated gem and choice condition, these can get quite pricey. But down in these circulated grades, not so much, maybe $30 on this guy. Same with the 1893, O over here. This guy, again, it's about good, and probably, $30 in this grade. It's a fairly common coin. 1893S is a great date. It's incredibly rare. If you guys are familiar with Morgan dollars, you'll know that the 1893S is the king of the Morgans. We were in a pretty major recession/depression in the early 1890s in the United States, so the mintages were down on a lot of these. This was 740,000 on this. And in this condition, which is a nice coin, there's not really there's some scratches and stuff, but at least they didn't graffiti this one like they did the poor 1892 O. So in this condition, probably around a $200 coin. This 1894, it's kind of cool. It's got a good original skin on it. It's got like the kind of the shadows around the face, kind of outlining the face. I always like this look on circulated coins. Morgans, I like them when they look like this. Just gives them a good original look. Not a particularly rare coin, but it is a little bit better date on this 1894, just over 1 million of these. On the 040, not so, this is pretty common, and it's also pretty circulated in that condition. This 1894S is also pretty common in this. We'll kind of skip over. You got your 1895, 95O. We're not really going to hit anything particularly special until we get down to the 96S, and that 96S is in pretty nice shape. It's got a good original look to it, and it's a scarcer date. It's one of the rarest to find in the higher grades. It's almost impossible to find in choice, in gem grades, the 1896S. And even in this, which I'm guessing, I'm grading this like a 4. You have to see the back, some of it, well, maybe it's a 6. Let's just say it's good. In this grade here, probably around $100 coin for that guy. The 1897 here, again, they're getting a little better looking, probably about $30. Let's skip ahead to and we can look at some of the reverses on these as well. And you can start to see the wear. That's that 92O that has the graffiti on it, sadly, because the reverse isn't bad. It's almost got a full rim. I mean, it's not a bad coin. There you can see the reverse on that 92S. It's almost gone. That's why I would say that this is a 2, and so on. Some of the reverses are pretty gnarly on these. It's pretty typical. The reverses often tend to wear more on these than the obverses. At least what I've seen. That one's better. That one's pretty worn down, and that one's okay. So getting to the 97O, this one has some like weird stuff on it, unfortunately, because it'd probably be almost $100 coin. That weird green stuff does make that pretty bad. I might let that have an acetone bath to see if that comes off, but it's probably permanent, whatever did that. We don't really have any better dates. This 97S here, under 1 million. The 97O, I forgot to mention, 632,000. So, we're talking some lower mintages, so it's kind of too bad that one. Like the 92O's got graffiti. This one has some weird green corrosion on it. This one's under 1 million, 934 in that range. The 98S, we'll just kind of glance, we'll kind of go through these a little more quickly. Looks a little bit better. That 98S is probably, around an $80 coin. It's a nicer looking coin. The 99's a much nicer looking coin, much more original surfaces on it. Like this one looks like it got dipped or somewhere along the way. This one looks a lot more original. The 99, but not particularly valuable. Maybe that's an 8. Like very good, low end to very good. 99O, we don't really have any really valuable coins until we get up to like the 1901S. which we're going to get to momentarily here, I promise. There it is. And that actually isn't a bad coin, that 01S. And I would say that, maybe $85 in that grade. It's only, on this one, 847,000. So again, another under a million coin. Now we're going to get up here as we're skipping ahead to the one that's a real bummer for me. But we'll just start here and look at the 02S. It's okay. It's a little, I guess a little bit better. The S Mint mark tends to be better overall. It's 19030. It's actually not a bad coin. It's got some kind of hits on it, some weird, I don't know if that's corrosion pitting. Maybe it was struck with a rusted die. So, but the detail on it otherwise is pretty decent. We skip down here, we get to the 04s. You can see that our friend, again, whoever that was, decided to do the outline of the head. I don't know what they're thinking on that. Fortunately, that one's not a particularly valuable coin, certainly in these low grades, but kind of sucks, but it is what it is. And the 040, you'll notice this 04S is turned around. It's because in this album, which goes through 1906S, this 04S is the only one that's missing. Only 553,000. It's very rare, and it's in high demand. In a high grade, like a 67 plus, this coin would go for about $200,000. Even in an XF45, a 1904S is like $5,000 coin. So I could see why they didn't have it in here. Even in these low grades, a 1904S is going to be probably a couple $100 to throw in a book like this if you're trying to do any sort of grade matching book. The rest of these are all common, more or less, what you might find. That one's a little nicer detail on that 06D. That's the first one from Denver. It's worth pointing out. And that one there, man, that's rough, that 06S. And that's the last one in this book of Barbers. But you can see, like, because these were used so much, it's hard to say, like, when you look at it, go, that it would, to imagine it would ever look like this when it was rolling off the presses or something like this, to get down to this sort of wear and tear is, pretty rough. Now, let's switch gears a little bit to this Lincoln Cent album. So I'll zoom out here. This is a Warman's album, so not particularly old. The auctioneer put 144 coins on here. This is actually a complete set of Lincoln Cents, which is not the easiest to find. And because of the ring light and reflectivity here, we'll just kind of zoom in. Whoops. I think that was the 22D. It was. The 22D is definitely a little skinny and keeps falling out. So this book, again, as I mentioned, is complete, including, except for, of course, the S VDB. That's the only one that's missing from the book. Otherwise, everything is in here. There's your 09S. Although, not the greatest condition. But I got this up on my eBay store right now, and I'm selling it for a pretty good deal considering the condition of the coins. There's better ones as we go. There's definitely better ones in here. That one's better. That 1912S is certainly a better coin as far as the condition of most of these go. Some of these are pretty worn. That's not bad, that 13S. And those are both semi-keys, so it's nice to have those. The 14 is actually pretty decent. The 14D is in here, but it looks like Lincoln got a lobotomy. That's really sad. I don't know what that can, maybe $100 or $125 for a 14D and with an Abraham Lincoln lobotomy. But it's in here, it is complete. The 14S is actually a fairly decent coin. We're coming up sort of the last of the semi keys. And the 15D is not bad. The 15S isn't bad. Kind of skipping ahead. We're kind of down in the 17s. These start looking a lot nicer as we get down to 17. Much better coins overall as the quality starts to improve, as you can see just on the hair detail and the ear, that we see this overall improvement. That one's kind of, flat. That one's really nice, that 20S. Look at the detail on that, although the color's off on it, so I think someone got a little funny and tried to clean it at some point, or did clean it at some point. 21S, that's pretty flat. If I can get into the, that's pretty flat. That one's not bad, the 22D. And that's a full, D on there. Of course, if you collect Lincoln Cents, there's a version that doesn't have the D, and you'll see that Denver was the only mint that made 22 Lincoln Cents. But there's a version of that where there's a light D, and then the D is completely gone, and that's a pretty valuable variety as well. I'll just kind of look at the rest of these real quick. That one's nice. That 24D's got some really good detail on it. Not particularly rare or scarce date. The 26S we just passed. There's a 26S. It's a better date, 5 million, but it's in a low grade. But as you see, the condition overall is improving on these. That 28's pretty nice, although it does look like someone cleaned it at some point. Flat. 29's pretty nice, actually. 185 million, so not a rare or scarce date by any stretch of the imagination. We're coming up on another pretty important key, which is the 1931S. There it is, just under $1 million. And that one's actually pretty good. Of the key date coins that are in here, that one's the best of the bunch. No lobotomies, just some circulation wear. Doesn't look like it's been cleaned or anything like that. And again, they get a little better as time goes on. Now let's get to the second half. Oh, I think the 22 just fell out again. And let's see what we got here. These are all worn 35. Yeah, that one's better. That's pretty nice. That 39's not bad. That's actually like red brown AU. That's not bad. But it is all over the place. I mean, whoever was putting this collection together, definitely, that one's not bad, that 40. Definitely was just sort of throwing stuff in here that was all over the show. It's got some weird color on it, but a lot of detail. The steel sets aren't bad. Got a little bit of color on them, but they're not corroded from being in the album. I'm kind of popping around here quicker because as we get up toward the end, it's not particularly exciting. Because these are all very 200, hundreds of millions of these made. And then toward the end, we got some more, lightly circulated, more red-brown, red kind of coins. And then this person just continued past 58, 9, at 60, 61, and then threw in even a newer one at the end there. So that was fun. It was fun to win these. It's, to get a full set. I mean, I have a full set of myself in my personal collection of Lincoln cents in much higher grades than this, but I wanted to pick it up anyway. This is listed on my eBay store. You can go and check it out over there. I'll put the link in the description. If you're interested in picking up a pretty affordable, almost complete set of Lincoln cents. This guy over here I'm probably going to break up, although half of me wants to keep it because it's pretty complete, other than that one San Francisco one that's missing, and some graffiti coins, but actually not bad overall. So anyway, that was it for today. We'll cut it off here. Thanks as always for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, happy collecting.